Hello there, welcome to Sprigg Talent Management Online Solutions demonstration for 2018. My name's Jelaine Parks and I'll be walking you through the Sprigg system today. So just as a quick mentionable, the demo is probably in length about 36 minutes, so you may want to be able to either schedule yourself the time accordingly. You can certainly pause the video and come back and view it again, pick it up at any time. Today I'll be taking you through what is, again, the full complement of the Sprigg Talent Management Suite. And what that means is that I'll be able to demonstrate today for you all the features and functionality that belong to the 2018 version of Sprigg. Over 2017, we did some extensive updates along with module add-ons, including compensation, in addition to succession planning and several others, which I'll be covering in the demo this afternoon. So once again, my name is Jelaine, and I'm very pleased that you joined me this afternoon. In terms of following up with us directly at SpriggHR, you can certainly visit us at www.SpriggHR.com, and you can actually look to schedule your own individual demo by which we can have an open forum and answer any questions that you may have. So let's get started. What I'll be doing is, again, taking you through what is the full system, and I'll look at this from two different perspectives, one from an employee standpoint, and then one from that person's manager. So this is the best way to take you through the system so you're able to cover off any and all of the features that belong to those specific audiences. So right now you should be able to be looking at what is a login screen. And as I mentioned, I'm going to begin by logging in as an employee firstly, and I'll give you a homepage tour there, and we'll set up a goal, and then we'll submit that goal and take you then over to the leaders side of the application. Now, just in terms of an assumption, there is a critical conversation that needs to take place prior to employees logging into the Sprigg system, and that's the clarity of direction conversation that typically should happen with that person's manager. So Sprigg assumes that that conversation has taken place. And so once that's happened, the person can log into Sprigg and then begin to draft their goals. But prior to drafting our goals, as I said, I'll give you a homepage tour. So let's get started. I'm going to log in as an employee. And so welcome to the employee landing page. Now, the first and foremost thing to remember about Sprigg is that you have extensive amounts of customization and flexibility to truly make the site your very own. And so what that means is that you can upload your own logo, including welcome messages. A lot of our clients actually refer to their internal performance management system by a specific name as the process, so you can, again, brand that internally. Next, you can actually modify the color palettes if you wish. And then you have a tremendous amount of flexibility from a module or feature functionality point of view, including content, to which I'll be demonstrating or illustrating for you as I take you through the demo today. All right, so let's get started. And first of all, I'll start on the left-hand side of the navigation tab for the employee homepage. And the first thing we have is an area called My Goals, to which is how Sprigg measures performance. It measures these goals along with the competencies, and I always like to say it's not just the results, but it's also how you behave along the way. So we always, again, like to say it's results plus behavior equals performance. Now, these are both very good examples of what you might be able to customize. Quite a few of our clients haven't done the heavy lifting yet on the competency side, so they can actually turn that off and remove it from the dashboard altogether. Likewise, if I'm just focusing on the competencies or the KPIs, which, by the way, you can call this whatever you like, we'll turn the goals off. So again, you can make this your very, very own. Every organization looks a little bit different, and at Sprigg, we've tried to give you those controls in the administration panel to make it your very own. All right, so for purposes of our demo, we'll go through a goals and competency piece. We also have a self-evaluation component, which can be turned off if you wish. Some of our clients don't have self-assessments, so you can turn that off. We also have professional development plans, and I'll be able to dig a little bit deeper into each of these features today, but development plans are actually linked specifically into the competencies area. So a little bit about competencies just before we continue. They can be assigned to be position specific. They can also be assigned by a specific level in the organization. So if you have a leadership cluster of competencies, you can look to devote those competencies to all leaders in the organization. Or you can even dedicate them globally so they can belong to everyone, right? So more flexibility there. And on the goals side, I'll mention as well that today's demo will be drafting a goal and submitting that goal for approval in order to get to our performance review portion. But in terms of goals, they don't have to be drafted by the employees. They can actually be drafted by the administrator and or the manager. And I'll say a little bit more about that later. Okay, next, just in continuing our dashboard tour, I've got a feature here called My Time. And My Time is twofold from a time management perspective. One being is a classic vacation tracking system. And this is a fairly robust tool, which again, I'll be diving into shortly. But in terms of its use from a time management point of view, again, we have the vacation component, but we also have the ability to utilize this as a project management tool, whereby we have goal worksheets that link directly into the goals and allow you to capture what are tasks associated in completing the goal. And once again, you guessed it, I'm going to be able to demonstrate that soon. And then the last thing on the landing page I'll isolate is the My Notes feature. And the My Notes feature is actually a personal journal that's devoted for the user. And again, personal being that not even the administrator can view it. But essentially what we do is we provide a personal notepad, if you will, for the user to capture any sorts of notes, perhaps samples of work and documents that they may want to bring forward during the performance review discussion. And anything they do look to save on here is actually date stamped, right? So they can refer back to a point in time during their performance review conversation. Okay, we'll come back to the landing page, and the leaf in the top left corner here will always bring you to the home page. Next, over here on the dashboard, we have a couple of key areas. One is called My Tasks, and the other one is called My Upcoming Meetings. So the My Tasks list is actually the to-do list for the user within Sprigg. And essentially, this is linked into a full email notification component. So anytime this person's manager, for example, may want to request an update on goals or an update on their development plan, they can simply connect with that person inside of Sprigg, and that will actually send an automatic email notifying that employee that a task awaits them within the system. Right? And I'll say more about tasks actually in a few minutes when we hop over to the leaders side. And then just over here to the right, you'll see an area called My Upcoming Meetings. And basically what this means is that you can book a meeting within the Sprigg application without ever having to leave it. It too has an integration feature, or it can roll up into any calendaring system that you're currently using, whether that's Outlook or Google or whatever calendar system that may be. Next on the dashboard, you'll be able to see an area called My Performance Status. And what this is just a quick snapshot as to where the person is at as it relates through status bars within the performance management cycle. So we can see for this employee, they've started some goals, and it looks like they've kicked off their development plan as well. All right, and then next, further down the dashboard, we have a couple of more features that are related to our Sprigg Social tool. And I'll just draw your attention to the top of the screen here under the tab called Social. And Sprigg Social was actually created for two fundamental reasons. And one was for company-wide communication. So if there are any announcements, a person could look to actually make a posting and they would share that, and it would become a live feed on the desktop of the users. And the real purpose behind Sprigg Social was to actually invite what are continuing and ongoing touch points of communication and feedback for employees overall. And the way we get to this is an area or a feature called spot recognition. And spot recognition allows us to set up distribution groups such as teams, allowing us to provide what would be group feedback. And we can also scroll down and access what would be a company directory of individual profiles. So if I open this up to view the profile, and we can see immediately that there are some areas to which this employee could actually populate the answers to their questions. These are all customizable by administrators. And if I wanted to provide some feedback to this person, I could say something like, hey, you did a great presentation today, and I have some choices in terms of who receives that. So I could actually make this visible to everyone, or I could provide what is in fact by definition public feedback. Or if I want, I could just keep it between the manager and this person directly, or perhaps just to the manager alone with the option to copy HR. However I wish to share this, or whomever I wish to share it with, it will actually create an automatic log. So if I send that out, it gives me a date stamp and a log as to when that note was sent out. We're going to talk a little bit more about this as it relates to the leader's side, and we can actually create what is a live, real-time feedback folder for the manager. Very, very helpful during the performance review discussion. Okay, back to the landing page, and just a couple of quick points here. Again, if we scroll down, we do have some more custom options, and that includes your choice of actually being able to demonstrate, or pardon me, being able to post what would be your company's corporate objectives or strategic objectives or initiatives. However, again, you wish to label these, you can create both the title as well as the content. Right, and then a couple more things at the top. Just a quick mention, we do have what is an online help center for Sprigg. And that means you've got access to a self-paced learning library whereby you can access instructional by design training briefs with screen caps and step-by-step directions on how to utilize key features within the system. And you also have access, if you just follow me down here in the bottom right corner, to an online help desk. And that means you can contact people directly live at the Sprigg offices, and we'll be able to help the users. This is pretty much one of the best friends from an HR point of view or from the administrator point of view, because your users can reach out to us. They don't have to reach out to you. Okay, back to the landing page. All right, so just as mentioned, if I was logging in here for the first time as an employee and I wanted to create some goals, and I've had that conversation with my manager, the first place I'm going to go to is over to the My Goals section. Okay, and when I open this up, I've created, in fact, just ahead of our demo today, I've created one goal. But if I was logging in here for the first time, I'm going to click on the Add a Goal feature. And what opens up next would be the standard goal template. Right, so a couple of mandatory features or components here that I would have to populate include providing the goal a name. We'll call this goal number 2. All right, along with establishing a weighting for the goal. And I can utilize what is the slide bar or the pull down menu to identify this. You'll also find what are contextual help tabs along the way, which give the user good guidelines and instructions as to what each one of these areas need to be populated with. Now, just a quick mention on weightings, you can turn weightings off within the goal template. All right, next what we do is we ask people to, whatever they're creating in the way of a goal, is that it needs to align or link with something. So when we click on this plus sign, we've got an option here to align our goal with either a corporate objective, as the ones that we illustrated on the landing page. And all I have to do is tick the box and identify which one of my, individual goals will be lined up with each of these or either of these in the corporate objectives. And just again, a word about these particular ones. If I wanted to populate this with my team's objectives, I could look to do that. Or I could actually populate it with my team leader's goals. So whatever's most appropriate for me to align with, I would identify those accordingly. And then just hit save, and it gives a quick reminder as to which goals I'm going to be writing my goal in support of. Next, we just need to create what is some of the content of the goal, and we've got a couple of writing assistant tools that we provide for users. And one's called the Goal Action Bank. And when I click on this, I have access to a list of verbs. That's all they are, just thought starters that assist the user in kicking off the goal writing process. So customizable, you can add, edit, or delete this content. It comes with your system, however. So if I want to make a selection, it would auto-populate, and we could just simply populate this. We'll call it budget test goal number 2. And then next over to the right, we've got the universal best practices of SMART goal guidelines, along with some sample SMART goals in behind. And you guessed it, you can actually customize these as well. Okay, and then next, we want to be sure that you attach a deadline to the completion for your goal. And lastly, we ask that people identify the specific metrics as to which their goal is being drafted around. And we all know metrics take on all different shapes and sizes, so the user would select their appropriate metric, and then they would look to then identify the metrics at hand. Right? And if I have multiple metrics in my goal, I can then prompt the Add Metric tab, and it would be enabling a dialog box that would allow me to capture that. All right, so we're going to go ahead and save this goal, and when I do that, it just gives me a nice tidy recap of the goal I just created. I can continue to modify it, delete it if I wish, and start again, or continue to add more, right, by adding another goal. So just a quick mention here, we've got a meeting tool feature that opens up, whereby I can actually book a meeting with my manager to discuss these goals if I wish, in advance of them receiving them. And I also always have a hard copy printout access to my goals. All right, so let's go ahead and we're going to actually submit these goals now for approval. And when I do that, two things will take place. One, you'll see the submission message confirm at the top that it has in fact been submitted. And the next thing that's happened is this person's manager just received an email notifying them that their direct report has just submitted their draft goals. So what we'll do is we'll log out of the employee page, and then we'll go back into the system as this person's manager. And then we'll provide what is a homepage tour of the leader's side. Okay, let's get logged in here, and you should be able to view now what would be the homepage for the manager. And you can see over here just to the left in the navigation tabs, these are all the same and similar features as anyone else would have in the organization, with a couple of key differences for leaders. One is the leader tools, and the other one is team time. And I promise I'll come back to the My Time feature back over on the employees page shortly, but I'll firstly take you into the leader tools section. And even prior to that, I just want to draw your attention over here to that My Tasks area. Now, My Tasks was created more so for managers than anyone else in the organization, because we never wanted a manager to log into Sprigg and have to think about what they're supposed to do next with which one of their direct reports. So you'll be able to see each one of these tasks identified by the name of the direct report along with the specifics on the task at hand. And in this case, we just submitted a goal a couple of moments ago. So not only is this a to-do list for the user, but it is in fact a quick link. So the manager, all they have to do is click on this, and it takes them right over to a one-pager of the goals where they can view the content and look to provide feedback on these goals, ultimately approving and or pushing them back and asking for any changes to be made. And when the manager does look to approve it, it simply turns green. And again, if they want to push it back and ask for a change, they would simply add that specific change in the feedback box, click Ask for Revision, and the email notification would come up for the employee. They would then just simply jump into Sprigg, make the change, and then resubmit the goal. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and approve these goals, and we're now ready to go ahead and begin what is the performance review. So I'm going to take us back over to that landing page through the leaf in the top left corner, and the first thing I want to do is bring you into the Leader Tools section. And when I click on this, the first thing I see as a leader is an overview of all of my direct reports. Now this will look and behave the same as your org chart within your organization. So if I have within my direct reports individuals who are managers and who also have teams reporting to them, I will be able to view those sub-teams accordingly. Right? And so for each one of my immediate direct reports, I have a couple of key tabs, as you can see, located beside each one of their names. The first one is called the Feedback tab. And when I open this up, it is a continual feedback area that I'm allowed to provide ongoing, regular touch points again with my employee. And we separated that feedback tab from the rest of the toolkit because we want to emphasize the importance of what is, again, regular touch points with employees. So as a leader, I can look to, again, create a message for my employee, and I will have an immediate date stamp along with any of the content made. So this is a real-time feedback folder in play. And I'll come back to this actually during the review session and see how we can easily access this for our notes area. Okay, I'm going to hop back over here to team members again. And now, this time I'm going to go over to that Manage tab. And when I click on Manage, I have now what is an instant overview for this specific employee. So you can see the cycle in terms of the performance management cycle and the milestones. We can see that the goals have been started and approved. And we can also see what's remaining in terms of the evaluation for the employee and the leader to be able to complete their assessment as well. I also have an overview of any past goals or current goals at play or past performance reviews and any development plans that are currently in play as well. So I'm going to bring your attention up here to the top right corner under the Tools section, which is a pull-down menu for leaders. And in this area, I have the ability to manage each one of my direct reports with the following features. I can look at their employee profile, in which case I can view any and all content related to this employee, including certifications, academic accomplishments, anything and everything that I want to pre-populate on this profile for this employee, I can be in view of. I can also actually attach a copy of their job spec. And continuing the pull-down menu, I can also view any of their goals, of course, at any time. I can ask for updates, conduct the performance review, of course, look at any development plans currently in play, ask for updates here. And I also have what is a 360 or a multi-rater feedback tool, which I'm going to come back to. And I've got a feedback folder that's building all the time for me here. Once again, we'll access this during the performance review. I have the ability to track meetings in the meeting history area. I even have a performance improvement section whereby I can document any sorts of coaching related or performance related issues and provide a document printout leaving room for signatures. And then lastly, I have a notes journal as well. So just like that private journal that I showed you for the employee, the manager has the very same sort of feature. And really the only difference here is that if there are any dotted line reporting relationships for this employee, that manager can also be copied on the note. All right, so I would make my notes accordingly, and I would attach any samples of work that I may want to bring forward during the performance review. And of course, everything is date stamped, allowing me to make a reference back in time. Okay, we're going to go back to that team member side, and now we're going to go in and actually look to conduct the performance review for Bob. So I'll hit that Manage tab again. I'm going to get inside of that pull-down menu, pull up Performance Reviews, and now what I have is a dashboard that tells me that I'm in the correct performance year. And if I do this in a pull-down menu, you can see I can actually log all my archive years as well. And often enough where we have clients who are making that transition into what is a transition from paper to an online system, we're able to offer what is a PDF format component that allows for us to copy any and all of that documentation and actually attach it to the person's profile. So the manager would be able to view any of that content. All right, so we're going to go ahead now that we know it's the right performance year, and we're going to begin the performance review. And in this case, we've got a year-end review in play. And just a quick mention here, you have all the flexibility that you want within Sprigg to create your own review types. And what that means is that you can determine the frequency, whether they're monthly or quarterly, or there's a mid-year and a year-end, you can actually calibrate that. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and start this year-end review. And when we do that, we'll come to a quick dashboard that just shows us that our employee hasn't started their self-evaluation yet. So I can send them a nudge here, quick reminder. And as the leader, I'm going to get the evaluation going. Okay, I'll click Start. And basically what I have now is access to the evaluation tools for each of the goals and each of the competencies for this performance review. You'll have lots of clear information banners giving the leader very specific instructions. And when I scroll down, what I'll see now is each of the goals in terms of content, again, along with the performance evaluation tool. So in this case, we've got ratings plus what would be a feedback bank. Under the rating side, if I wish to apply a rating, I'm able to actually just use the scroll bar up and down, and I can determine what rating this will be. And you'll actually be able to see these numbers changing. Now, if you wish to turn the math off or any of the quantitative areas in measuring the performance of someone using calculative scores, you can turn all scoring off within Sprigg. Right? Also, you have the ability to customize any of these rating ranges. So if you have a 3-point spread or a 4-point spread, you can determine that. And you can also look to create your own internal vernacular or terminology. All of this is customizable. Now, if I want to have a definition of the rating that I've established here, all I have to do is hover my mouse over the rating and the definition comes in view. All right, so two things need to happen when I conduct an assessment on any of the goals. I have to provide a rating, and I also need to provide a piece of feedback. This is a mandatory feature, right? And in order to help the manager along in that process, we have the feedback bank. And when I open up the feedback bank, I have access to, again, what are a series of thought starters and information that I can actually look to just create by clicking on, and it will automatically populate as the feedback. Now, this is not a hard-coded feature, which means anything that I do look to select, I can just modify that sentence any way I like. Okay, so after I've done the rating and I've done the piece of feedback, all I have to do is hit save. It turns green, and it prompts me to move onward. Right? Very, very straightforward. Right, so all I need again is a rating along with a piece of feedback and just another couple of tools that are made available for the manager. Instead of asking the manager to log in and out of the system into their application or around the application to view their notes, they have an immediate access to a window of all their notes. Right, so they don't have to be jumping around in the app to get access to those. So we'll give them the feedback. We don't have to use that feedback bank, of course. Okay, and we also have access, another window can open up here, to this employee's self-evaluation. So as a leader, if I wanted to take a quick look and understand the thoughts of the employee on this part of the self-assessment, I could look to do that. All right, so we've done the rating, the feedback, we'll hit save, it turns green, and again has prompted me just to move on to what's next. Right, and we can see just following the tabs accordingly, we're going to now evaluate what would be the competency section. Right, the very same process applies where I need to have all the content or the definition of the competency in front of me. I want to do the rating along with, again, what is the feedback component. Hit save, turns green and moves ahead. Now, in some cases, when someone is new to the role or new to the position, they often find that it might be a bit too early to offer an evaluation or point of view from the leader's side. So you actually do have the ability to skip any of the goals or any of the competencies if that's the appropriate thing to do. Right, so we're going to finish up this assessment by completing the rating and the evaluation with the feedback. Hit save, and now we're going to go on to the third and the final point of the review, which is called discussion points. Okay, and discussion points is another good example of things that you can customize. And essentially, these are just placeholders for extra feedback for the leader. All right, so what we've done here is we've created the start, stop, and continue. But as mentioned, you can customize these questions to read anything you like. All right, so in terms of start, we're going to populate a couple of notes here just in terms of what you need to start doing to improve your performance. We're going to hit save, and then we're going to move on to some things next that are getting in your way, or rather things you should stop doing. And we'll add some feedback here and look to save it. And then next we'll have some things that are working or things that you need to continue to do. We'll hit save, and then we'll have one more placeholder that just allows for the manager to capture any sort of summary notes. And then look to hit save finally here. Okay, so we're ready to move in and look to submit the evaluation. We'll hit that fourth and final step. It does give me a quick recap of all the areas that I've completed, allows me to navigate back over to the areas that I've just evaluated and make any changes if I wish. Now I'm going to go ahead and submit this evaluation, and a couple of things are going to happen. One is then that the employee will actually now receive an auto email notifying them that it's their turn to get in and complete the self-evaluation. Right? And the second thing I wanted to note here, which is a very important point, is that the performance review that has been completed to date by the manager doesn't go anywhere. Right? It stays with the manager until the point in time where the employee has submitted the self-evaluation area to which the final review will be created. So I'm going to be able to demonstrate that for you in just a moment. And instead of logging out of here and going back in to complete the self-assessment because it looks exactly the same as the manager's evaluation exercise, I'm just going to take you up here into the team member section, and we're going to take a look at a performance review from another employee to whom we know has completed an evaluation. So I'm going to click on Jennifer Bright over here. I'm going to click on Manage, and I'm going to open up her profile or overview, and I can see through the status bars that her evaluation has been completed by both myself and the self-evaluation component. And I'm going to open up that toolkit, reach into performance reviews, and I'll be able to now view the output, or what is the performance review document. And so you can look at this actually from two perspectives. One is when I look at the assessment on a compare-contrast side, I'm able to see on a goal-by-goal basis and each competency, along with each discussion point, the comparative to what the employee thought and what the manager thought. Right? And this is a great example as to why you want to have this information in advance. We can see that Jennifer Bright has self-evaluated under an exceptional rating, while I, as her manager, really just said, you know what, you're just on the cusp of exceeding and really on the back end of solid performer. So this is a great example of an area where a manager might want to get ready for that conversation coming up. All right, so again, each competency, each goal will be presented in a compare-contrast from both what the employee thinks along with what the manager thinks. And if I want to actually look at this from a more quantitative perspective, I can actually view this from a scores point of view as well. So if I open this up, I still get that comparative around what the self-assessment looks like and the manager, but I get it in a far more granular format. So you can see we're in a formulaic overview or calculative score piece here where we've got all the goals along with all the competencies, and we are integrating what is the rating times the weighting formula. In this case, because we have two variables for the performance review, we've got a weighted average to create an overall score. And once again, we can see that both from the self and from the manager's perspective. So that is the performance review. I'm going to take you back over to the Leader Tools section here, and I'm going to highlight a few more things for you because these are crucial and critical features that are uniquely assigned to managers. So as a leader, I have a couple of tasks at hand. I've got a compensation tool that is made available to me, and I have the ability to make recommendations on compensation. I also have the ability for the system to calibrate what is a full pay for performance process if I wish. And what that means is that I can calibrate specific pay amounts by percentage or dollar amount to attach themselves to various rating ranges. So if someone scores between, for example, between the score of 75 and 85, I can assign them a 3% increase. And the system will automatically understand what this person's base pay is and look to do a multiplying effect where they can actually create the result of the performance review and the actual pay increase. And I'll speak a little bit more about that in the back end for the performance review, or pardon me, for the administration panel. Okay, and as a manager, I'm able to assign goals to employees as well. So I spoke a little bit about that at the front end of our demo where the manager can look to assign extra goals. This is often referred or referenced to as stretch goals. So we've got some predetermined ones and the year begins to progress and I'm going to assign just again some extra goals or stretch goals for this employee. So I can look to do that. I am going to come back to team time in just a moment, but I'll draw your attention over here to the reports section and the coach's corner. And as a manager, I've got access to a couple of key reports, and one is called the overall progress report. And so what this does is it allows me to view all of my team's progress, or really status, in terms of where they're at within the performance review cycle. So I can see by the name of each direct report down the left here. I can see Bob Pathy, for example, has already got their goals started and approved, but he has yet to complete his self-evaluation, along with getting his development plan approved. Right? So this gives me a quick snapshot as to where people are at. This very same progress report is available at a global level as well. So administrators can view this on a team level, and allowing for administrators and HR to actually understand exactly where which team is at and which managers they could look to support. Okay, next we have a scoreboard tool, which again, dedicated to the leaders, allows them to view what would be the average team performance across each of the team members. And so far we've only got the one review submitted here, But if I had all my performance reviews done for my direct reports, I would be able to see a running average. Once again, this report is available on a global level as well. And then lastly, dedicated to the Coach's Corner area, we have giving feedback, performance coaching, as well as conducting a performance review. And all of these areas contain what are tips and training guidelines for the manager under each one of these supportive skills training areas. And then we can also just open one of these up, and we can also look to actually modify this content any way we like. So you can customize this, add, edit, delete the content. Now for the conducting a performance review piece, we've actually elaborated a little bit here, whereby we've included a script for the manager who is about to have that difficult conversation of, I gave you a needs improvement and you gave yourself an exceptional. So we offer a few coaching tips there on how to lead that dialogue. Okay, and then the last thing under the leaders tool is something called check-in meetings. And check-in meetings are probably one of the most utilized tools within all of the leadership area. And what check-in meetings do is they can actually replace the formality of a performance review. So what this allows me to do as a leader is I can schedule regular touchpoint meetings with my employee. And we've got the performance year identified here. And when I look to create it, I can give actually the meeting a name. So if I want to do maybe a monthly one-on-one or goal meeting, if I wish, I can date stamp that, give it a time. It'll send out a calendar invite. And once I save it, it opens up a worksheet for me and my direct report, Bob, in this case, where if I start the check-in meeting, it creates the worksheet and allows me to have what is an ongoing conversation with Bob in a meeting, and capturing and creating all kinds of notes relevant to these areas that I may want to stay in touch with Bob around. So a lot of our clients actually utilize this for goals. And when I've created this worksheet, it actually automatically creates an identical worksheet for my employee as well. All right, so I can look to populate this, keeping notes, and again, facilitating that one-on-one regular touchpoint meeting with Bob. Okay, I'm going to take you back over to the landing page here. And I think what I'll do is I'm going to hop back out for a moment and go back over to the employee side just one more time, because I want to illustrate for you what the My Time feature looks like. So again, we're going to log in as the employee, and we'll be able to now view a whole series of tasks that have been created as we've moved through our demo today. But you can see the to-do list for this person is building. Now, if I wanted to access the My Time feature, and again, from a vacation component, I can just click on My Time as an employee, and I would have immediate access to what is a calendar and a snapshot of my vacation allotment. Right now, important note about goals and their completion dates. Whenever I have a goal submitted to my manager and that very goal is approved, the timeline or the due date for that goal is actually automatically populated within my vacation schedule. And what that does is it just prevents people from scheduling vacation time around the points in time on their calendar for when goals come due. All right, so if I was, again, as an employee, I want to schedule some vacation time, I'd click on the tab here, and I would identify just a quick description of what that looks like. And I could then go ahead and indicate the timeline to which I would want my vacation to start and end. So we're going to take 3 days off here, and I'll just simply go ahead and submit that to the manager. All right, it'll give me a quick confirmation that this is underway in terms of a request, and it will do an automatic deduction from my allocation, but it will replenish this if my manager declines the request. Right, and the tabs over here, you can manage any and all types of related days or time off. This is completely customizable. And then the second component related to the My Time feature, as I mentioned earlier, is really more of a project management feature. And we call this the goal worksheets. So what I have access to now would be able to click on one of my outstanding goals here, and I'd be able to have all the details opened up and then create what is a goal worksheet. And the goal worksheet is just really a way to manage all the tasks associated with completing that goal. Right, so I would identify what that task looks like. I would then identify the timeline in terms of when it would be completed. And all I have to do is click on the calendar down below here, and it'll automatically populate. The next thing it does is it actually identifies or promotes what is a collaboration tool for goal task management. And all I have to do is click on that plus sign. It opens up a directory. I can tick the box of the name of the person that I want to ask for help from as it relates to this task. And as soon as I save their name, they will actually receive an automatic email notifying them that I'm going to approach them and ask them about this task. Right, next, it just allows me to create notes. And when I look to save it, it starts to build my worksheet for me. Right, and I can continue to add more tasks along the way. Now, one of the most notable areas here within the goal worksheet area is I can actually create an update and send that off to my manager. So if I click on update, it actually brings me to another screen where I can prompt what is the status of this goal. It could be green, yellow, or red. So I'm going to mention here that I've been delayed for whatever reason and give my manager a bit of a heads up here. All right, and once I hit save, okay, it'll just do an automatic push out to my manager and provide the update, including the task management sheet. Right, so that's our My Time feature. Now next I'm going to do on the landing page for the employee the final feature, which is called the development plan. And professional development plans are, again, another feature you can turn on and off, strictly optional. But when I click on here for the first time, I'm going to go ahead and start a new plan. And when I do that, it brings me to a template that asks me to name the actual development plan. So in this case, we're going to look to do some presentation skills. And then it's going to give me all these information banners about what I need to do next. So I'm going to hit save and continue. Then it's going to bring me to a place where I need to now identify what are the development and what are the training activities as it relates to building a presentation skills development plan. So in this case, we've given a clear definition and a distinction between what is the difference between training activities and development activities. And we're going to start off with development activities. And what we say here is that there are specific things that we can be doing that will further support the presentation skills area. So what's the activity? What is the development activity that I want to engage in to help me in presentation skills? And maybe it's something like my my platform skills, my voice projection. Right? So I'm going to identify that, and then I'm going to look to further describe what this may be. And in order to assist the user, or the employee in this case, we actually have suggestions for development. And what that looks like is really a placeholder or thought starters of all the examples of rich learning that can actually take place within an organization, because you don't necessarily have to go outside and pay for training. There's a lot of great things that happen inside of an organization. So in this case, we might want to audit a course, or maybe we just want to go ahead and conduct a lunch and learn session for the company. So just again, as a way that I might want to get some practice in my platform skills and building out my presentation skills development plan. So again, anything just like any other comment bank or feedback bank, anything that I do look to auto-select is customizable. Right? And then the final thing I need to do and make sure I always do is I have to align the competencies that belong to my position and fold them into my development plan. So in this case, these are the 3 competencies that have been assigned to my position, and what I'm going to do is just identify the most relevant one. I'll hit save, and then it just prompts me to save this part of my plan and go on to complete the second half of my plan, which is identifying the training activities. So 2 options under training activities. And one is that in a lot of cases we find our clients have a list of preferred vendors or curriculum that they want to be able to use as a standard for populating a development plan. So you can actually build that curriculum in the back end of the Sprigg system. So when the person goes to complete the plan and identify their training effort, all they have to do is make the selection, right? And that will auto-populate. The next option is that if you're pursuing something external to the organization, we ask that people complete any and all details related to their custom training pursuit. So in this case, maybe we want to pursue a Myers-Briggs training, and we've got a vendor here, and along with that, we'll give a brief description of what the program looks like. We'll define the date in terms of when I plan to attend it, and then the duration perhaps, for 8 hours, we'll say and then we'll say in terms of the location, let's say it's going to be in New York City, right? Along with what is appropriate or where appropriate, any kind of qualification or certification that may apply. In this case, we're not looking at any updates or any kind of refresher periods. A lot of our clients have specific certifications that need to be updated annually or every 2 years. May not apply here either, but we do want to make sure that we identify the cost associated with the training, along with any incidentals such as materials. So perhaps we've got $150 to spend here, along with the cost of the program being $1,500. So I'll click Save on this, and it does give me a quick summary on all the associated costs. And then if there's any travel associated with this as well, I can look to identify the cost related to this, and I can identify also the currency here. Last thing I do is make sure I identify the competency this portion of my plan belongs to. Hit save again, and now I have a full training plan to which I can review and look to modify if I wish, or now I can, if I'm ready, go ahead and submit this for approval. Now, the reason that we do offer all these incidentals or detailed items around the optional training plan is that it does allow for you to pull or extract what would be a complete training summary report. And I'll illustrate that for you when we jump back over and look at some reports in a moment. Okay, so we'll go ahead and submit that plan for approval, and we'll await for this person's manager to go ahead and approve that. All right, I'm going to log out of the employee side now. We're going to hop back into the manager side once more. And at this point, what I'd like to do is just give you a bit of a tour around what would be the administrator functions. I'm going to give you a very high level here. And just as a quick note, you can see the features, or rather the tasks that are building for this manager. Just as a quick mentionable under the team time side, we are going to go ahead and approve that time off request. I'll open that up. And as the manager in this case, I have the option to decline and or approve this request. So I'm going to go ahead and be a nice guy here, and I'll approve the request. And as soon as I do that, I am able to view any and all of my direct reports time off requests. So I can manage conflicts here quite easily. Or if I didn't want to give Bob an approval here while he had a due date on a goal, I could have declined that as well. But having access to managing time off requests also allows me to indicate when one of my employees actually calls in sick, for example. So I can create a time off request here, and I can identify that by description. Okay, we'll just give that a quick test, and then I'll identify the leave type. We'll call that a sick day. And then I'll identify the actual date where Bob had called in sick. Okay, oops, it's telling me I've got a start date greater than the end date. I did that on purpose, just so you know. Okay, and then we'll identify the end date as 1 day in total. We'll hit save, and then we'll see what is a full day that's been documented as a sick day. Okay, there are several reports to which you can pull from vacation tracking and history. Again, having full customization to be able to identify what are public holidays within your relevant state. Okay, I'm going to now just take us over to the landing page, and a couple of key areas here. I've logged in right now as an administrator. While I'm on the leaders page, I'm still been identified here as an administrator. So a couple of really quick points on the admin panel. I won't spend huge amounts of time here other than just to highlight a few sections that will really illustrate well the kind of functionality and total custom control that you do have within the Sprigg module. All right, so this is where I would have been just prior to our demo today. This is where I would have uploaded a logo in any of the color palettes along with content. And at this point, under my account settings, I've got lots of flex under the review process. So when we started the demo, I mentioned that I could actually turn things on and off. Well, this is exactly where I would do it. Right? Very, very clear, very, very simple to achieve. We've got the social tool. I can also turn that off if I wish. And we've also got a peer review component along with the My Time feature. If you do not require a vacation tracking system, you can simply turn the My Time feature off. So in the dashboard here, we'll quickly illustrate it. We'll just hit save. And once that updates, we'll be able to see that the whole My Time feature has just disappeared from the desktop. Right? So again, you can build your Sprigg site the way that you want to and include whatever measurements or features and functionality that are relevant to your organization. All right, so there's a tremendous amount of content management here, certainly too much to go into over this demonstration, but we'd be very happy to answer questions that are relevant to the flexibility within the site. A couple of quick mentionables. As an administrator, you do actually have the ability to create what are multiple locations within your Sprigg account. So what that means is that if you have HR or admin people who oversee various locations, those people can be granted access to a site that only allows for viewing rights or permissions to the individuals that are located at that site. Right? So a lot of cases, a lot of our clients have got a key home-based organization with multiple geographically dispersed locations, again with an administrator at each site. And really, you may not want to be able to or have to divulge compensation or other private related information on the home office employees. Right? And that's exactly why we built locations. You also have the ability to create what are organization reminders. This is a huge feature for a lot of our administrators, whereby I can create what are auto-emailed, date-stamped reminders for the organization. So probably the most popular utilized area here would be asking the entire organization to submit what would be a goal update. So you can create your own subject line, your own date stamp, okay, and then the message can be modified here with a choice to either copy the entire organization to be in receipt of this particular message, or if you just want individuals or individual teams or managers, you can look to identify those people within the directory as well. Right, so lots again of flexibility here. A couple of other mentionables within the admin panel I'll highlight for you. You do have, again, the full ability to actually modify and set up your very own site. Now, we would never leave you at the curb to figure that out all on your own. These are fairly intuitive in terms of the steps involved in the setup process, but keeping in mind that you do have access to online help. You have actually a dedicated support person that will be with you through every stage of setup, and again, making sure that the site is completely turnkey before you're ready to launch and go live with your site. But upon identifying your site specifics and your essential settings is what we refer to them as, and that means do you want competencies turned on or off, or your goals turned on or off, or vacation modules on or off. You completely decide what that looks like. The next piece that you'll do is actually create an online spreadsheet, and this is the format that's included here under the Identify Users feature, and that activates all the names of the users within the account. Once you've actually completed loading that profile information, you'll find then what automatically sets up is your teams. And what that means is that you'll have an auto org chart that builds based on the profile information that you submit. Right? So you're able to view any and all of the content related here, and you're able to modify the membership of any of the people that belong to this team, either by leader or by individual members. Okay, so again, just touching very briefly on some of the key areas within the organization or within the administration tab. You do have lots of flexibility within the system as well to create something that we call PRT Flex. And PRT is just an acronym that stands for Performance Review Templates Flexibility. And what that means is that if you have 2 different or 3 different or a variety of user groups in your organization who are measured differently within the performance review, then you can create that performance review accordingly. So if you have one component or one area that is measured in the business strictly by their sales, and so let's use the sales team as an example, then all you want to measure their progress and performance around might be just on the goal side. But if you have someone in an administration team or in HR perhaps, you want to measure their performance by both goals and competencies. Well, you can look to turn either of those features on or off and then look to assign that accordingly to the most appropriate team. Again, measuring what are the most appropriate metrics for whatever that user group requires. Okay, so I'm going to bring us back over here to the settings category and highlight a couple of key more things. Some of the things that we didn't touch on within our demo today were areas like core values. Core values can actually be turned on and included in two separate formats within the review. You can have the core values turned on the desktop, which in this case are just then viewed by content and definition, or you can actually include the core values within the performance review format as well. So it's entirely up to you. A lot of our clients do look to embed the core values within the competencies and the goals section, so you have that option as well. All right, so I'm going to bring us back over here to the landing page, and this will actually look to conclude what is our Sprigg tour today. I want to thank you for taking the time to view the content. We're hoping that this has found helpful to you in being able to walk through and provide or be given what is an overview, again, of the key features and the functionality found within the Sprigg Talent Management Suite. If you'd like to book a more thorough demonstration and understand some of the true areas that you can look to customize your site accordingly, I'd be very happy to spend some time with you individually on the administration panel and show you how it is that you can set up your site accordingly. You can feel free to contact us at www.SpriggHR.com and then look to book a demo with us, and we'll be sure to get back to you and take you through anything else that you wanted to see within the Sprigg system. So thank you once again for joining us on Sprigg Talent Management Suite, and we hope that you'll have a pleasant afternoon.